the guru will teach the student whatever he requires the most. The guru will understand the journey of a student, which direction this student can go, which direction he will progress better.
Hi, you're listening to Conversations with Musicians with Leah Roseman. In this week's episode, I'm delighted to feature the master bansuri player Milind Date, who joined me from his home in Pune, India, and played his flutes as well as shared his perspectives from his life in music. As always, check the timestamps for both the music and the many topics we covered. Milind spoke to me about his studies with the legendary Pandit Hariprasad Chaurasia, of his fusion projects, especially in South Korea. He had a great story about a memorable concert he played in Toronto, his extensive travels in India and internationally. He has a large and varied discography and has composed music for many films. Check out his link in the description. So hello, Milind. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Hi, Leah, and thank you very much. Namaste, everybody, and thank you, Leah, for inviting me on this your show. It's really a fantastic show. I mean, I'm looking forward for it.
So, some of my listeners may never have heard a bansuri flute. So, okay. I thought it might be nice, actually, if you're willing to share some music, maybe one of the rags that you've written, you could improvise on one of those and speak to that.
Yeah, sure. So what happens is, like, because we have this, we don't have these keys to the flute, it is quite difficult to play chromatic scales. This speed is manageable, but it doesn't sound good. But if we are playing a rag, essentially it is a scale. So we just have practiced and we can manage. So almost, I mean, except this note, all holes are closed or open were half. But somehow in that context it is manageable. But somehow it is very difficult to, at least for me, to play chromatic progressions on bansuri flute. But as I said, this slurs. This very Indian style of singing is very easy. Very easy means like you can play it. It's not so easy either, but you can manage it. It's not like, well, nothing is easy in some way.
So I know that you've written quite a few of your own ragas.
Okay.
Could you improvise on one of them for us?
Yeah, sure. This rag is called as Sunand Bhairav. It is one of those Bhairav melodies which are played in the morning, and this is, I have named it as Sunand Bhairav.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. So when you went to study with your guru, Hariprasad Chaurasia, you were... I'm just curious about the type of music you were listening to, because shortly after you started playing, you also started doing fusion music, which you do to this day. So were you listening to rock music and jazz and stuff as well as
I mean,
music?
see, I grew up with a lot of long-haired guitar players in my college.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, in India, college means after 10 years of education. The next 2 years we call it junior college, and then
Mm-hmm.
next 3 or 4 years we call it as college. I think in America it's called as high school. I'm not too sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that time we had a lot of well, not a lot of, quite a few guys who were playing rock, and they were into very like classic rock, and I started liking it. That age is like that. That rock music is, it's music of freedom and rebellion. So
Mm-hmm.
I started liking Deep Purple and Scorpions and all that kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, to be honest, I could never go ahead of GNR or Metallica. Guns N' Roses and Metallica. After that, I don't know. I mean, I have not enjoyed too much of rock music after that. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I still find myself engrossed in Dire Straits and Deep Purple and all. I mean, that very classic rock, 70s, 80s era. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
that generally I prefer. So what happened was I started playing with these guys in college, and then naturally uh, we started playing some things together. And of course, these guys being Indian, they had heard a lot of Indian music anyway. So we found
Mm-hmm.
some common ground and started working on that. I mean, the interesting part was that even though we were playing cover songs uh, more or less, uh, I could not play the guitar solos beyond the point. So I
Mm-hmm.
started improvising on those scales, and improvising is something uh, in the basic nature of Indian classical student. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because 99% what we do on stage is improvised. Very like few guys. There are several musicians who have like remembered everything and then they come on stage and perform exactly like that. But there are very few. But even in that, there's a lot of scope for uh, improvisation. The structure remains same, but the internal lines come out differently every time. They'll come out differently. So that entire improvisation thing happened, and well, that's how I got into the fusion or world music.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of went parallel. Like one side I was learning pure classical music. I was playing a lot of Hindi film songs and all that. I mean, I was accompanying some of the best singers, and on a college level, I was playing a lot with. And there used to be like you know how college kids are, that they have lots of time on their hand. We were not never like focused right from. There are some children who are like very focused. They will study 8 hours a day and all. I was never like that. So we had a lot
Mm-hmm.
of time on our hands, so we would jam up, and that there would be long listening sessions. Like we would get together in some friend's place, and he would put on some music, and hey, just play that and just play that, and hey, see, I heard this song new, and somebody would have got cassette. That was the era of cassettes. Not even CDs were also not there. So all these mixtapes and bootlegs and all that, that kind of, somebody must have
Yeah.
got from somewhere, and we would listen to some Simon and Garfunkel from Gill and all that, like that classic era, right from Beatles, everything. Like it's, it's lovely.
Yeah. Yeah. We're around the same age. I grew
Yeah,
up
I think
listening to
so.
some of that as well. But your guru, he actually played with George Harrison.
Oh yeah,
He is on a
he played.
Beatles
Yeah,
album.
I think the White album. I think they played on the White album. That's what they composed in Rishikesh, if I'm not wrong. I think so.
Did he encourage you to play other styles of music, or did he know about it when you were starting with him?
He knew. He never really restricted me from playing anything. See, my
Mm-hmm.
Guruji has also played in variety of genres, not just pure
Mm-hmm.
Indian classical music. He has played innumerable recordings, like tens of thousands of recordings for Bollywood. I mean, now we call it Bollywood, but that time it was just film music. And he has worked with the best of the best. He has played a lot of concerts with right from John McLaughlin to Ian Garbarek or Jethro Tull, Ian Anderson, and of course the Beatles and George Harrison. So he has that kind of exposure also. Being instrumentalist, we don't need the word. We are not restricted with the words. So the moment you get into improvisation world, a lot of things open up by the nature of it. Uh,
Hmm.
so there, you always I mean, I have played a lot with Korean musicians and Japanese musicians and all that. Hardly anybody could speak English, but musically we were always happy because we could always find some common denominator, some common ground to walk on, and then just
Hmm.
play. So I think he never stopped me from doing practically any type of music.
Yeah, I was curious about your collaborations with Korean musicians because you've toured there a lot, you've released lots of
Yeah.
albums. So, how did that get started?
Oh, that is a very funny story. I mean, one day I got a call from a local singer, and she said that there is some troupe of Korean musicians coming to Pune, and they're interested in doing some fusion work here, recording some stuff. Would you be interested? There is not much money, but would you be interested? I said, like, okay, no, like, not much money is a kind of common story for all musicians in the world, I think. So I said,
Yeah.
like, okay, not a problem. I mean, I'll learn something. I'll enjoy something. So there were like four or five Korean guys, uh, musicians, and one guy who was a manager who could speak some English. I, Milind, you, Leah, that kind of English. So
Hmm.
rest of them, none of them could speak English. And then eventually he invited me once, and I remember when he invited me for the first time. The day I landed, my flight was at some weird time. I had some weird lag over in Singapore. I God knows why I went with that flight, but I had to stop over like for 8 hours direct flight. I had a 12 hours of break on Singapore Airlines.
Oh.
Then of course I couldn't sleep. So when I reached Korea, it was afternoon already in afternoon, and then he directly took me. My main program was like one of the main programs was the next day, so directly took me to some cafe. There were some musicians playing blues, jazz, blues, that kind of thing, and he directly put me on the stage and okay, play. And that was interesting. And those guys were also uh, quite nice actually. They were pretty good music. I don't know who they were, but they were Americans, that's for sure. They were not local Korean guys, but they were. One was playing bass, one was playing guitar and singing, one pianist and a drummer. So they had that kind of quartet. I just jumped on the stage and improvised whatever I could. I improvised, and this guy kind of loved it. So immediately started calling everybody and his friends, and I had basically two concerts or three concerts lined up. So in next 15 days, I must have played like 20 concerts.
Wow.
And since then, I went to Korea like 15 times, probably more. And it was fun.
Hmm. What do you like about visiting there in terms of the culture or the way
I'll
things
tell
are
you what
done?
I don't like. I don't like the food
Mm.
because
Yeah.
I'm a vegetarian and it's very
Right.
difficult.
Yeah.
And because of language, nobody speaks English there. And now it's better, but initially, like when I went, first time I went there was in 2002, so nobody really spoke English. It was very difficult to tell those people that okay, no animal parts, no animal parts, no fish, no fish.
Hmm.
But what I love about Korea, there are many, many things. One of the most important things I think, Korean people, audience, as well as musicians, are looking forward for something different, something new.
Hmm.
They are very much receptible to some new sound, new technique, new ideas, new uh, line of thinking. Of course, I mean, you have to be within the framework somewhere. That guiding, binding framework has to be there. Otherwise, you're playing minor, and I they start playing major, it's just because it is different. It's not not going to sound good. So they are very open. Also, there are certain, being Eastern, there are several common like line of thinking, I would say, common lines of thinking that the Indian music also will think in this particular direction in general. The same thing is with
Hmm.
Korean musicians. They will also like they will think in a similar direction. The fundamental of thinking is similar. That way, Western music and Indian music, uh, especially the music I follow, Indian classical, what I learned Indian classical music, the fundamentals are quite different actually. Uh, what we play is more from the improvisation side, and if you actually notice that improvisation is a pretty much small part in the Western music world. Uh, Basically, some progressive rock or some rock guys, and almost everybody in blues are the only people who are improvising. Pop, classical, uh, reggae, maybe reggae guys will improvise a bit of solos and all that, but they're not much into improvisation. At least that's what I gather. Maybe I'm wrong, but uh,
Yeah, I mean, there's different traditions in Europe that are very
oh,
improvisatory,
okay.
and you forgot to mention jazz, of course,
Of
but
course, jazz is there.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but in India, the entire like world of Indian classical music is fundamentally improv, like jazz. Basically,
Hmm.
it's completely improvising. But beyond that, I think somehow I've managed to find a lot of common ground to talk in the sense like talk with my flute, you can say, with
Hmm.
Korean musicians. So I enjoyed there. I mean, there are also a lot of musicians there who are ready to take chance, ready to take risk, being on the stage, and just one or two rehearsals, we just find some kind of uh, landing points, resting points, and then okay, you play after that, I'll play after that kind of thing, and then let's see what will happen on stage. That was the interesting part, that they were like more like there were a lot of musicians who were ready to take that risk of being on stage
Hmm.
without much of preparation and just go by your sixth sense and kind of thing. So that was amazing. That was really amazing. That's still really good.
So you've toured a lot, but when we had the pandemic shutdowns in 2021, you decided to go on a big solo trip
Yeah,
just for
yeah.
fun. So I know you have lots of beautiful photos and stories. You've people should read your blog, but could you share some of that experience with us?
Oh yeah, sure. Uh, what happened was well, it's a very long story. It's a 6 months long story, but how it started was a very funny thing. Just behind my house, there was some construction going on, and once that entire pandemic kind of first wave went out, they had stopped working on that pandemic, and once the restrictions were lifted off, they had almost finished that construction building, and they almost had made it ready, and pandemic started. So after 3 4 months again they started, but that was not much work left, and then the everyday trucks would come and pick up all the whatever they have created, whatever unwanted construction parts, they would dump in the truck and go away. In that was December of 2020, and I started coughing a lot, and no matter how many medicines I took, no matter what I did, all sorts of pathis, allopathy, homeopathy, Ayurveda, and this and that, that's cough was not stopping. Suddenly, one guy told me, "Arey, you should keep the window shut because there's a lot of very fine dust getting, like spread in the air
Hmm.
because when they dump it, in the truck. They are dumping it from the top, and it just falls down, and it just that all these finest part of dust and cement, they get spread, they get in the air, start floating in the air. And then I realized it was a mechanical problem because I was breathing that entire fine dust every moment. And obviously, no matter, I mean, it's like a mechanical problem. No matter how many chemicals I took under the name of medicines, that was not going to help. So I decided, let me go to some seashore, which is not too far from here. And because seashore in India is like very humid and very warm, basically. So it's like taking steam every moment, cold steam, because it's very humid. So I said, okay, and then I packed up my bag and like I said, like I took out my car and went to Goa. I started with like the idea that I'll go there for a week and come back once I like this coughing is gone, come back. The coughing went away within one day. So by the time I reached Goa, it was like it's
Mm-hmm.
like 8 hours from here. I was okay. Then I had seen some pictures of a very lovely Lord Shiva statue, and just on the seashore, kind of a little uphill, and there is this big statue, and just in front of that, there is a very tall temple. So that somewhere I saw it on the internet, and then I realized it's like only 4 hours from where I was staying. So I had my own car, so I said, okay, let me just go and try over there, see and come back. So I liked the place, and then somebody told me, "Arey, there is some nice place to watch nearby." And then I never came back to Goa. I just kept going ahead, and I came back to Pune after 2 months. I moved around all in the South India. When I came back, I came to Pune, my home, just picked up a bigger box, bigger bag, and took some more clothes and all that, and started traveling north. And came back home after directly 6 months. So it was fun. I mean, I had a very lovely experience. What happened was I was driving solo, so I initially I booked some hotels and all that. Then I realized why I don't even need to book a hotel. I just walk in, and that way I'm getting the cheapest rates because
Mm-hmm.
I go to some hotel at 7 in the evening or 6 in the evening. Do you have a room? And I just want to like sleep and leave in the morning. So they know that there are how many rooms are free and how many they can guests they can clients they can customers they can expect. So I would get the cheapest rates also. So it was fun. So I went to first in January 2021. I went to Goa. Then I went to Karnataka. Then I went to southern like Tamil Nadu. Then I went to Pondicherry, then came back. Then I went to Gujarat, Rajasthan, Punjab. Then I went to Himachal. Via Himachal, I went to via Himachal Delhi. I went to eventually Uttarakhand. Then I stayed for 1 month in Uttarakhand. I went up to Nepal border, all up in the mountains and all that. I love mountains. I'm a very very mountain guy. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
much of a sea guy. I'm a very mountain guy. So I was very happy. And then
Mm-hmm.
from there, I came to Himachal Pradesh. I stayed in Himachal for 1 month. Then I went to Kashmir, and via Kashmir, I went to Ladakh. In Ladakh, I again stayed for 1 month. And then one day I got bored. So, okay, so let's go home. And I started driving. Fifth day, I was at home. It's like 5 day drive anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it was fun. I got in contact with a lot of local musicians. I got to learn a lot of music, local folk music from them, and I composed a lot of music sitting there. I practiced a lot,
Mm-hmm.
so it was fun. It was all in all. I just loved it. I would love to do it again, but not this year. Maybe next year.
Yeah. So you were able to do this because
Yeah,
concerts
yeah,
were shut down
absolutely.
at
I
that
had nothing
time.
to do. But even anyway, I mean, I
Mm.
still can do it. If I get a concert, I'll just park my car at a airport. I'll go out and come back and continue.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you remember one of the folk tunes you learned on that trip that you could play for
Yeah, of
us?
course. So this is a folk tune from Uttarakhand region of India, which is a northern Himalayan state. Um, Actually, I was kind of lucky. I was there in a place called as Sangla. I was driving, and suddenly I saw a group of bunch of people all dressed up in their mm, traditional outfits. So I can clearly that was a marriage party. So they were they were going. There was a either boys' side or the girls' side. So I caught them and I said like, "Can I take your pictures?" So they were more than happy. So I took some pictures and then eventually I attended that wedding also, and that was fun. So uh, this is one of those. Probably it's a like marriage songs or something. Uh, this is not the exact marriage song I'm going to play, but these are, I would say that these are the impressions from what I heard in that. So it will be very close to that, but not exact.
Hi, just a quick break from the episode. I'm an independent podcaster who does all the many jobs required to produce this series, and there are a lot of costs I bear as well. Please consider either buying me a virtual coffee as a tip or becoming a monthly supporter starting at $3 Canadian, which is close to $2 US or €2, and getting access to unique perks. The link is in the description. Now back to the episode.
So thank
So
you,
beautiful.
thank you. These folk melodies are lovely. in India, so you can always think of India as a little smaller German Europe. Like Europe has completely different cultures. Like Spanish culture is completely different than German or French, or I mean, all they are like different cultures, different languages. Similarly, in India also there are completely different cultures in south and north and east and uh, center. So almost all regions, the parts of the country, they have their own traditional music, folk music, and that can be drastically different from each other. So this particular part
Mm.
is is Pahadi or Pahad means mountains. So Pahadi is something from Pahad. So Pahadi can be dress, Pahadi can be a person also, or Pahadi can be a language, or Pahadi can be a food. Whatever happens in mountain, from the mountain. So this is music is Pahadi.
Mm-hmm.
But in this trip, I learned uh, that the Pahadi is tune melody in India is very popular, especially in South. I mean, this is Maharashtra. It's very popular. My Guruji has played it in probably almost every concert. He must have ended by Pahadi because so at the end of the concert he would ask people, okay, what should I play now? Pahadi, because he was known for that. But this in this trip, because I stayed there for a month and I interacted with a lot of local people, I learned that Pahadi also is different. Like Uttarakhand Pahadi is quite different than Himachal Pahadi, which is very different than Kashmir Pahadi, and uh, then that Baltistan area. That Pahadi is again little different. So that was actually a good education for me, and I got it kind of first
Mm-hmm.
hand from the creators.
Do you have one main flute you play, but other flutes you have as well?
I have my practice and my pure classical is necessarily on the flute, which is the in the key of E. When I say flute, which in the key of anything, that means the top three holds closed. Whatever that note will be produced, that is the
Mm-hmm.
key of the flute, according to me. So this is F. The this one is like smaller one. So this is G,
Mm-hmm.
and this is even the smaller one. That is when I close these three holes, the note sound that sounds is D. So for my
Okay.
classical, I have got E flute, concert flute, and I have got
Mm-hmm.
several like five, six, seven different flutes, and all other flutes are there. I mean, I have here like the harmonica, the mouth organ. We have entire set, one flute matching with every
Okay.
key on the piano, two octaves. Like not otherwise, the
Mm-hmm.
flute will it will be too big or too small to play. Too big, I can't even spread my fingers. So
Mm-hmm.
the biggest flute I have is A. It's pretty big. And the smallest I have is, I think, E. It's like this much, 8 inches or something. Uh,
Okay.
so, because as I said, one of the reasons why we also need that is that there are no keys to the flute. So, if the
Mm-hmm.
song is in F, and if I have to play it on a flute of
Mm-hmm.
E, it is going to be a nightmare opening all the half notes.
Yeah.
So I might have just put the E flute away. Okay, so you take rest. I'll pick up F flute and start playing. Um, that was so. In all probabilities, if I mean, if you're playing for some songs and all that, in all probabilities, if the say for example, if the song is in F minor, then I'm not going to take F flute. I'll take some other flute, or if, say for example, it is in E minor. I'm not going to pick up E flute. I'll probably take a G flute or a D flute. So I get the that half notes become
Okay.
full open holes. So I mean, it's as and it just kind of. I just that's all open holes I get. So sounding
Yeah.
better.
If we could go back to traditional Hindustani music. So I did. You're the first Hindustani
Oh,
musician I've
really?
had on the series.
Okay.
There will be more, but
Okay.
I also, yeah, I did interview a
Okay.
Carnatic violinist who lives near Toronto. So there was a split, right, in Indian classical music, maybe like the from Carnatic, the Hindustani became different, maybe in 1200 or
True.
something. And it is aligned with Arabic Persian music principles, right? Like the way they think of the scales and
No, I'm not
improvisation.
too sure about that. Undoubtedly, the Hindustani, that is the North Indian music, is more influenced with the scales coming from the outside of Indian subcontinent, maybe from Persia or somewhere else. But the fundamental difference is not that. The fundamental difference in Carnatic music, that is South Indian music, and North Indian music is in thinking. It's not, and of course, there is a style.
Mm-hmm.
So the Carnatic musician, I mean, he'll very like, whereas in the North Indian guys will play more steady notes, more longer notes, more steady notes. So Carnatic musician. So that kind of like style is way much more prevalent in South India
Mm-hmm.
than the North Indian. North Indian style is much more deeper, much more slower. In at least initially, of course, we also play very fast music. It's not that we don't play fast, but that the way, how should I tell you? In Indian, we would say आवाज लगाने का तरीका अलग होता है. It means like, uh, okay, I'll sing and tell you. Uh, some guys, even in North India, say for example, some gharanas, they will say very heavy, powerful type of. My voice is not like that, but at least like very heavy, powerful voice they have. But some gharanas,
Mm-hmm.
they will have na, so more lighter type, more ornaments and all that. So that way, the styling of uh, North and South is very different, very different. Now, South Indian music still is like much more rhythm oriented, mathematics oriented, calculation oriented than the North Indian music. That's clear.
Mm-hmm. So each gharana, was
Yeah,
like a school, is the
correct.
style that the guru passes down. And the way traditional music is studied is so
Oh yeah.
different than what we're used to in the West. It's your guru is much more than a teacher. So could you speak to the experience when you first went to study with Hariprasad Chaurasia?
Okay. It's it's of course the day I will never forget in my life. Different gharanas. So in Indian classical music, or like many other traditional art forms like yoga or asana or spirituality uh, or medicine, Indian medicine like Ayurveda. All these systems which have evolved over the period of 1,000 years, 2,000 years, I don't know how many, but quite a long time of period. They all have their own gharanas uh, because say in terms of music, there is one teacher and he has, say, for example, three or four phenomenal, the best of his students, who themselves are like, on to becoming very good performers or artists themselves. But what happens is either deliberately or just by the virtue of the fact that every person is different. Somebody will like red color, somebody will like green color, and so on. So one of the students starts thinking that he he is better in doing that. So he gives more focus on the mathematics or the rhythm part of it. One guy says that I like the very deep and meditative nature of the music, and he will focus onto it. The third guy will say, I that both are good, so I will play some balanced music. Some initially I will play some very deep, very soft, and then I'll get into the rhythmic aspect of it. And the fourth person is like he is good in all, but he would say that I would uh, like this is too serious for me. I want to make it slightly easy to digest music. So the one guru has produced three students or four students which are uh, thinking differently, and that is encouraged.
Mm-hmm.
The reason is that otherwise you will become a Xerox copy of your guru. And there are examples. There are examples in India
Mm-hmm.
that, oh, this guy plays exactly like his guru. And if he continues, then he is actually kind of frowned upon that, he only plays like his guru. Yeah, then why not we will just listen to his guru? Why should we go to listening to him? So everybody at certain point is kind of forced to decide what direction he is getting into. And that's how the gharanas are born. Now, if somebody becomes one of like all these three students become very, very successful, very, very like, creative and really great. But one is liking rhythm section, more rhythmic aspect of presentation. One is has is like focusing more on the deep nature. So the same gharana will have completely two different uh, presentation ways, and then eventually down the line, in all probabilities, this guy will move to some different town. This guy will move to different town, and uh, their style of performance will be known as the gharana from that town because most of the gharanas in India are named after the towns. So so that's what happens. So uh, in when I started learning with Guruji, I had already studied for 1.5 years with my first guru, Pandit Ajit Soman, here in Pune, and he was also an incredible teacher. So within 1.5 years, he kind of prepared me so well that when I went to Hariji, I was not immediately asked to leave. Hey, kya, what's nonsense you are doing? Please go away. And that didn't happen. So somehow he accepted me, and his way of teaching was he would sit and we would follow him. He was not too much vocal about explaining things. So a lot of things were left to us to find out. So if we had a question, we were probably encouraged uh, to find out on our own first. And in case if we still can't find, then ask some senior student of his. That is, I just have two senior students, really speaking, Rakesh Chaurasia and Rupak Kulkarni. Uh, we studied together a lot, uh, and and if still we can't find, then ask Guruji. But because that
Mm-hmm.
that was the era before internet, so answers were not very easy to find. So I had to find ways to get to the right answer. So in that process, I also learned to understand uh, how to eliminate a lot of answers which may sound correct, but not the 100% correct one. So that process was very interesting. So that's why I was kind of uh, uh, encouraged, I would say, or I was taught to think and decipher between things which are uh, kind of uh, open to it, to interpretation. Because like, unlike Western classical music, here there is nothing written. Uh, Hariprasad ji has not even given me one syllable like sa or re or whatever written. Like, okay, take down this. Nothing. Never. Whenever I teach my students, I don't teach anything. I don't give them anything in writing. I discourage them from writing. I technically, if I'm teaching something, then I might say, okay, you just record this, just for 1 week. You just practice and just forget it because you will get it.
Yes, Milind, I was just curious what questions you were asking when you said you'd have questions and you'd go to his other students. I was just curious what sort of things.
So a lot of times they were about rag. Tell me how this rag goes. I
Hmm.
mean, I do even today.
Okay.
That I will ask Rupak, okay, how is this rag?
Hmm.
Like, for example, rag Bhim Palas. So it's in reality a mixture of rag Bhim and Palas. So how does that work? Uh, or sometimes I heard some concert somewhere and I didn't understand something. So then probably I would go to that artist and ask him that you did this kind of structure. I didn't understand this. So then he would explain me. So
Okay. Hmm.
all these kind of thing, or some tihais or something I saw somewhere. Then I think Guruji, I saw that it was very nice. Then he would either explain me or ask me, why do you want to do that? His instrument is different in nature, flute is different in nature.
Hmm.
So basically, I would say that my very fundamentals were getting cleared. Like, what happens is like,
Hmm.
I don't know how it is about Western classical. It must be like there. It's a human nature, I think, that once you start learning something and you reach up to a point where you can actually play quite good, you can easily replicate anything you are like, you are hearing. You hear any part of music and you at least like 80% you can immediately replicate. You understand what that notes are and all that. Then comes a time that there are different types of music or different styles that starts attracting you because at one point you probably think that okay, I can pretty comfortably do whatever I want, but I cannot play that because you have never studied that. You are
Hmm.
not going to be able to play something which you have not studied. It's very difficult. Then that starts attracting you and you start going behind that. But then why it is not played in our style? There has to be some answer. So these kind of things, okay, why don't we play this? Why don't we do this? I saw somebody doing this, but we never play
Hmm.
that. Why is that? Or somebody did something,
Hmm.
okay, but they did it like this. We do it differently. What is the reason behind that? So sometimes technical, sometimes musical, sometimes philosophical, those kind of questions. There are basically four major uh, movements in Indian classical music. The Again, there are two basic styles of Indian classical music. One is called as Dhrupad and one is called as Khayal. So Dhrupad is the older one. It's like 600, 700 years old, whereas Khayal is about 300 years old. Yeah, around maybe four, I don't know. Maybe 1500, 1600 it started. Maybe 4, 5, 600 years. And Dhrupad is much more like 800, 900. I don't know. It's pretty ancient. So what we do is like we start off with the Dhrupad style, which is the ancient, very slow, very deep, very meditative. And then eventually we mix up the styling from the Khayal style. So I asked my Guruji once because I saw one sitar player uh, doing one particular. patch in that 1 second movement of the rag, which we call as jod. And then I asked that he was playing in exactly four uh, segments. But we don't do that. Why is that so? So there could be many answers, but one of the answers is uh, if you want to play the jod in a particular time frame, then why not start the tabla? Just get a support from tabla for that particular time. So it's a question of difference of thinking. Like he thinks differently, we think differently, I think differently, he thinks.
Mm-hmm.
So those kind of questions I would ask Guruji more. A couple of months ago, he had come to Pune and we were talking for almost 3.5 hours. I was asking, and then as the discussion went ahead, different topics came up. It was nice. It was nice.
So in
Yeah,
in
yeah.
I think it was 1989 when you started studying with him. Did you live in his house?
No, no, no. Well, yes and no. In the sense, like I didn't go and live in his
Okay.
house permanently or for a longer duration. I stayed overnight at his place several times. But nowadays, it's very difficult
Mm-hmm.
to actually go to a guru's place and live there for practical reasons. But now, my Guruji has his own
Mm-hmm.
academy at Vrindavan Ashram, Gurukul. So he has 5 or 6 students staying there with him. He keeps this same student for 3 or
Mm-hmm.
4 years, and then they go out. Newer ones come. But yeah, I mean, I stayed here at his place, not like
Mm-hmm.
packed up my bag and shifted there. Not that way.
Well, yeah, I was just curious because I knew sometimes that was the case. And with him, you weren't expected to help with the household. It was just learning, but sometimes
Uh,
there is that kind of relationship
well,
with some gurus.
there is actually a very interesting story about that. Very first time I went there, I, of course,
Mm-hmm.
started going from that day, and it was his birthday, first July 1989. And the next, it was a Sunday, and next, I think it was a Sunday. Next Sunday when I went, uh, I reached early because I went from Pune, so I took the first train out, and I reached there like half an hour early. I reached his place. So his wife asked me, "Will you drink tea?" I said, like, "Yeah, I will drink that." I was in college that time. I was just in college. So, like you had asked, I had also heard a lot of stories that once you are learning at a guru's place, you have to do a lot of chores, lot of work, right from getting water from the well and all the ancient stories. Now that water comes from tap, but still, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
work tasks, household tasks we have to do and help him in his day-to-day routine and all that. So I drank the tea and got up and started towards the kitchen, which was smaller kitchen was just next door. And basically, I just wanted to wash and keep the saucer and cup inside. So the Maji, his wife was sitting. He asked me, "Where are you going?" I said, "Like I'm going inside." Why? So I said, "Like I want to wash it." So she called one of her servants and okay, take the cup away. And that servant came and took the cup away. And he asked me with a like very stern face, "Why do you come here?" I was like, I didn't understand. It was my second day at his place, and I just put my like head down and I didn't speak a word. So she again asked, Why do you come here?" So I said, like, to learn flute. So he said, like, go there. She said, go there and practice. There are 4 servants in our house to do all these works. You're not coming here for that. You're coming here for learning. Go and practice. So she was like very clear about this that no, there are enough. Old days are old days. Now it's just the situations have changed. So no, actually, we helped in, but not in the house chores and all that. He would tell some, give us some tasks here and there, and once in a blue moon.
And you would work many, many hours at that time, practicing and learn.
Work in the sense?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, Maximum I think I have played was about 20 hours in one day.
How is that possible?
I just pick up the flute and keep playing. Around somewhere between 19 to 20 hours I played that day. Because I was I couldn't play something and I was very irritated with the fact that I can't play that. So I played. So once I got it, then the next 6 8 hours was like actual practicing. Because you know how it is. I mean, you have one piece and you play it, and you can't play it, and suddenly you can play it. But that's not even the beginning. It's before the beginning. You have to play it 100 times, then maybe you play it without mistake. That age is like that. That what else I had to do in my life? Nothing. And you're like, whatever. I mean, 18, 20, nothing else to do with your life.
And so there's another great musician who I know has
No,
been a
of course.
mentor to you, the tabla player Zakir Hussain.
Well, I didn't play with him in his productions and all, but whenever he accompanied my Guruji, I have played numerous times with my Guruji and him. But I have never performed with him in his productions and his own setups. But he has been a another guru to me.
Mm-hmm.
He has been a great mentor to me, and uh, I have a fortune to again the same way ask him a lot of questions, different occasions, and then he would cross question me why are you in. Once I remember very clearly. I remember uh, I was in. He was performing with Shiv Kumar Sharma in Lafayette, one of the Purdue University's towns in either Indiana or one of those uh, places. I don't remember. So I had gone there and I told him that Zakir bhai, these days I'm playing one piece in 8.5 beats, 9.5 beats, and 10.5 beats. I generally discuss with my tabla player who is playing. If he's okay with it, then I'll play. So he asked me why are you doing that. So I said like basically you and Guruji has done have done so much in Indian classical music and on the flute especially that there is nothing much left for us to do something slightly different than otherwise I'll become a copycat of Guruji. So then he thought for a second. He said, "Yeah, it's also correct. Do it good, do it well." I said, like, "Yeah, I'm trying." So, I mean, such kind of like there are a
Yeah.
lot of things which I got to learn from him. Musical, non-musical, behavioral, all sorts of things. I mean, that way I've been actually quite fortunate. I mean, I because I was I am a student of Pandit Hariprasad Chaurasia. It was actually a kind of walk-in for me to many great masters like Pandit Shiv Kumar Sharma or Pandit Jasraj ji or Pandit Ustad Sultan Khan Sahib or Zakir Bhai, Bhim Singh ji or many artists. I could uh, go and ask questions, a lot of questions uh, to lot of these masters
Mm-hmm.
in all sorts of like maybe I would hear one of his recordings and uh, can you tell me something more about this composition, this way how you tackle it. So it's more of because it's like very the entire thing is nothing is written, right? The tradition is very oral transfer of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so
Mm-hmm.
that was it. So I was very lucky. I was really lucky. So I could ask Rabindranath
Mm-hmm.
Mangeshkarji, who is a big, very important composer in the songs, Marathi and Hindi songs, and he's the brother of these two genius, uh, greatest singers, Lata Mangeshkar and Asha Bhosle. So I could ask Asha Tai also. I could Usha Tai. I could ask if I come something comes to him. Okay, Asha Tai, you sang it that way. What? Why this? Why not this? That kind of thing. So these kind of interactions
Okay.
clear the direction because Otherwise, in Western classical, almost everything is written. So there is already a fundamental guideline. There's
Yeah.
already a fundamental guideline that if there is like, okay, there are
Yeah.
three F, so you have to play it loud. Or if there is like a P, then you have to play it slightly soft. That already some kind of guidelines are there. A lot of parts are open to interpretation
Hmm.
by the conductor. But in Indian classical music, everything is left to us.
Yeah.
There are no guidelines. We create the guidelines.
Hmm.
Today I feel like this, and I'm going to do this, play like this. So the same rag I can, uh, any
Hmm.
good musician for that matter, can play in completely different way. One day it will sound very energetic, very upfront, very uh, powerful. Another day it will have much more subdued version of that same rag. It can be, and then you can see it on, you can check it on YouTube. I mean, the same rag, you just search Ahir Bhairav and you'll find very fast compositions and very slow compositions, all depending on the rag also and depending on the performance. So these things really work.
Hmm. So you mentioned with Zakir Hussain that he taught you things that not just music but also behavior. Were they things about respect or the tradition?
No, respect. Of course, respect is one thing. Respect you don't need to be taught. I mean, it is inbuilt. I mean, you just observe and you learn how to do that. Otherwise, you're a stupid person. uh, but I think Zakir Bhai is a very, very, very practical person. So now this is
Hmm.
the problem. This is a situation that has arisen. How can I go ahead? How can I keep it aside and go ahead? Uh, that kind of thing, uh, uh, I learned a lot from Zakir Bhai. He is really a master of. I'll tell you a very small incident. In 1992, yeah, my Guruji, Pandit Hariprasad ji, had organized a very big all-night classical festival, and some of the biggest artists were performing there. Zakir Bhai had come there, but he was not performing. He had a very midnight flight or something was there, so he was not performing that year. Previous year he had performed there, and suddenly in the month of December or January, it was in Bombay, open air, very big ground, and thousands of people were there. And suddenly, slight rain started, very untimely rain. Not very heavy showers, not like monsoon showers of Bombay. Monsoon showers of Bombay are like really, really crazily heavy. If you are outside, within like 3 seconds, you will be completely drenched. In Pune, within maybe 3 minutes, 5 minutes, also the rain will start very slowly, very small, tiny droplets, and then eventually it will become bigger. In Bombay, it's not. It just hits you like really. It's the raindrop size is big and it hits you. But that day it was untimely rain, so that was a kind of subtle drizzle. Suddenly, people were kept sitting because that was not so heavy, but the sound engineers got alert. They immediately covered the sound mixer with some big plastic. They already had somewhere because they had an idea it could rain, so they were prepared. So they covered the sound desk with a big piece of plastic. There were somebody climbed up on the. There were huge speakers, so they covered the speakers. Amplifiers they covered and all that. And suddenly, we were just standing there, like looking at what was happening. And suddenly, I saw Zakir Bhai walking in, and he told the sound guys, "Okay, get somewhere a fan from somewhere and point it to the amplifiers because they will create a lot of heat." So this is not a musician's job. This is like beyond that. This is a technical. So these kind of things. So the
Hmm.
kind of you think ahead what is going to happen. Whereas my Guruji was busy, "Arey, if the rain is there, that what are we going to do with the so many people and like all that. Thankfully, the rain stopped in like 5 minutes, and again, I mean, no, the concert didn't even stop. It just carried on. But just a tiny drizzle. But that's like it happened in '92, and I still remember it after so many years. That even the sound technicians, they didn't realize that the amplifiers for the speakers are will be generating a lot of heat, so you have to put some fans on that. So these kind of things, we by observation, by talking, by asking, these kind of things, I got to learn from him a lot. That's why it's like very
Mhm.
practical and very like his analysis is
Mhm.
very fast.
So you've written a lot of music for film.
Yes, some, not a lot, but
Okay,
some.
that's part of what you've done. Do you
Yeah.
record like how since are you writing any of it down, or is it all like you just playing or using synthesizer?
In initially, I would write down in notation, Indian notation. Um I have my own method of script. Like staff notation is there, and our saregama is there. So I have combined both to an extent that I love the entire idea of ornamentation in the Western staff writing. All sort of trills and like PPP and FFF and this and all that kind of thing. All these different ornamentations, they are already clearly marked. In Indian traditional methods, they are not there. It's just written the ta 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 ta. So ta ta ta. That how that's crotchets and quavers and all that. But we just what we do is like we write saga pa madha. So we'll mark that bars and the bars are, how it's exactly like the staff thing that whatever the bar is, like it is divided in, equally in like 4, 5, 3, 7, whatever that higher, like whatever, not denominator, whatever is the for number called, I don't know. And instead of that writing that signature like 6/8 or 12/8 or 3/4 or whatever, we don't write it that. We just write the name of the tal, because tal that way is more important to us that than actually, and then we will do this all the same thing. So I have combined that some these two things. I used to do it initially a lot, but nowadays because of we have these recording systems and all that, I'll just play the piece or play it on keyboard and input it in the my I use Cubase, so I will put it on Cubase. And when I go to the studio, there is a sitar there or something. I say, okay, this is the piece, and you have to play it more or less. So I don't like my writing abilities are kind of disappeared now. So I mean, I'll be able to read it, but I'm completely not in practice now. I studied staff notation for a while. There is a lovely book. I don't know unfortunately the author of it. It's called as Rudiments of Music. It's a fantastic book for staff notation. So I studied from that, but that was like 30 years ago, maybe 20, 25 years ago. So, and one day I realized that staff notation, you have to read it. You have to be in touch with it every day. Only then you can read it. It's like that. Otherwise, it's very difficult.
Yeah, I mean it's different parts of our brain, and you were mentioning uh, the same as Western classical music, but of course it's different. Like you said, when you're really good, you can play anything you hear. Well, those of us from my tradition, we can't generally do that. We're so wedded to the page. We're so used to being able to read everything. It's not that we can't play something back that we've heard, but it's a lot harder
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
I just think our brains develop differently. So I really admire that you could hear a melody on your trip, this complicated melody,
I
and
mean,
remember it. Is amazing to
kind of
me.
as you said, like playing as accurate you can play is going to be very difficult for us because you are trained in playing 100% accurate,
Mm-hmm.
where we are not. We are more driven
Yeah.
towards creative side of like, okay, you create your, even my students, I mean, I kind of uh, push them to create compositions, create their own melodies, and all that kind of thing. Than to play
Mm-hmm.
100% accurate. 100% playing 100% accurate is needed for the sessions artists who are playing for films and all that kind of thing. Otherwise, it's not so much needed. I mean, it's not that
Mm-hmm.
you can go off somewhere and play anything, but the level of accuracy or precision Western classical musicians have is the highest and the greatest in the world. There is no doubt about it. I mean, there is just no doubt about it. I mean, I have some discussions yes, I said like no sportsman is accurate. His level of accuracy is very below acceptance levels. Whereas I said like uh, musicians are far superiorly accurate. Like for example, the greatest of the tennis players, like any of these, say Nadal or Federer or Djokovic or Ivanisevic, who was known for his aces, they cannot put all four aces. It's just not possible. Whatever the reasons may be, whatever there may be wind or this or that, uh, with
Mm-hmm.
like all the musicians who are practicing in Western classical music, all orchestras and all the towns are playing whatever they're playing is 100% accurate. Right? Then the probably the difference is like the emotional value that some bigger orchestras, better orchestras will have better emotional value or whatever. I mean, those parameters are different, but whatever they are playing is still correct. They are 100% accurate. There is
Yeah.
no two way about it.
So you did a really big tour back in 2013, like 7 months or something, all around the world.
Oh yeah. Well, that was fun. I was in Europe. I was in Canada. I was in America. I went to uh, Korea. I went to Malaysia, Thailand, and came back. So not too many countries, but just around the world.
Yeah.
Uh,
Did you collaborate with local
yes,
musicians everywhere you went?
quite a lot, quite a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Practically everywhere. Because I didn't have my own team with me. So I would
Mm-hmm.
send some of my compositions, recordings to the local musicians, and we would
Mm-hmm.
perform together. They would send some music to me, and just the head, I need to know what exactly. And otherwise, lot sometimes it was completely spontaneous on the spot. Also, okay, you just start. I will join you. Then I would find which key he's playing and which changes in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then I would stick to one segment or whatever is very difficult. I won't play and just skip that part with something and or just play very slow or something and just again so whatever I mean
Mm-hmm.
that every music piece is different.
You had mentioned to me at a certain point you lived in Canada for a little while. Was it in the Toronto area?
Mississauga. My wife was working there and I visited her quite often when I stayed at a stretch in Mississauga and I played there a lot actually. Canada has some lovely musicians.
Yeah, there's quite a large Indian community there. I was curious, what were your impressions coming from India of that community?
Oh, Indian community. Well, I played some with local
Yeah.
Western musicians also. I played in Markham Jazz Festival and at Beaches Jazz Festival. I just
Mm-hmm.
as a part of some band, I played there. But in Indian
Okay.
society, I think Indian society in Canada is,
Mm-hmm.
uh, especially in Toronto, is really fantastic in terms of music. Otherwise, I mean, whatever is every society is there.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, there used to be there was a tabla player called as Mohan Singh, Pandit Mohan Singh. Very sadly, he died a few years ago. I think he had cancer and he got cured. And he gave a big fight, but unfortunately, he died. Uh, he was a he was a great man and
Mm-hmm.
great musician, phenomenal tabla player, and he had a big, large room uh, and several tabla pairs would be there. And every Friday or Thursday, I think Friday evening, a lot of tabla students would come to his place from nearby, some from little far away, uh, and not from the same gharana. Somebody is learning with this guru, somebody is learning in that with that guru, somebody is learning something different guru, and there are different mixed traditions there, and everybody would come together and practice for 4 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, and till like they would start in the evening and go till late in the night. And I went there. I also played with these guys, and eventually I played in his house, and we became very good friends. I feel very sad that he is no more with us. Um, he was a very strong supporter of Indian classical music. He himself played tabla, and some of his students are doing very well now.
Mm.
So, Indian society, Indian community in Toronto is very strongly attached with music. There are a lot of really good musicians living in Indian musicians living in Toronto area, I mean GTA, whatever, Greater Toronto area, I think we call it. Um, some
Hmm.
very very good musicians. So
Yeah.
performing in front of them was kind of challenging, and the audience also is really fantastic over there. The listeners, they understand the music, and they I tell you, this Mohan Singh asked me that, will you play at my place? I said, like, yeah, whenever you tell me. And he fixed one of my concerts. There was tabla. There was a very, very fantastic, good tabla player called as Shubhajyoti Guha. He comes from Calcutta, but he also lives in Toronto. I think he lives in somewhere that was the east part of Toronto. I don't know. Uh, so I asked him, how long should I play? Uh, like, 1 hour, 1.5 hours, 2 hours. So I said, like, whatever you will
Hmm.
play, we will listen. We have come here to listen to you. So I said, yeah, but give me some rough idea. He said, like, no, 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 Milind, you play, if you want to play 20 minutes and stop, we are okay with that. If you want to play till morning, yeah, still we will keep sitting. And literally, I started playing at 9:30 or 10 or something, and first break I took around midnight. Then I was like, they were really, really very, very. The entire audience was, I would say, 50% audience was musicians. Some was learning sata, some was learning tabla, some were learning israj, all sorts of some singers and all. Everybody had come there because Mohanji's home concerts were really, really a prestigious thing, I believe, because he was a musician. So he had invited a lot of musicians. And the first break I took around midnight, and then I told him, Mohanji, I'm very hungry. Give me something sweet to eat. So he, being a Sardarji, Sikh, his wife had made some very traditional Indian sweets. So I hogged that, and then I thought that, okay, I'll play for another hour and stop. Uh, and I that time I started playing rag Malkamos. It's a midnight rag, and generally I am very good with time. Without looking at my watch, I can actually understand how much time I have played. So you just tell me, okay, play 45 minutes. I will stop anywhere between 44 minutes to 45 minutes. I'm that good. That was one day I kind of lost the track of time. And I thought that I'll play Rag Malkos for about 20 to 25 minutes, maybe half an hour. And then I'll play a dhun and end the concert because I had another concert next day also. It was a Saturday night. I took the second break at 2 at night. I Everybody was sitting, we were just playing, and then I said, like, oh, it is 2 o'clock. So then I played for another like maybe 1 hour or something, and then I said, okay, now I have to stop. So that, that, and all audience, not even one person left. Everybody was sitting. That's amazing. I mean, even in India, it is not so easy to find that this kind of audience. That was one concert I'll never forget.
That's an amazing story, Milind. So when you play, it's very meditative for you. So do you meditate aside from music, or is it enough just to play the flute?
I did that, but I'm not too successful in that. My meditation is my music, I think, because some of the uh, like one some of the
Mm-hmm.
spiritual masters also have noticed that. But I actually asked one very big, very deep spiritual master called as Sai Kaka. Whenever I try to meditate, it becomes little difficult for me. So I said, like, why are you doing that? Don't worry, your music is your meditation. So I kind of uh, took it at its stride, and I focus on music now. But yes, like whatever I'm supposed to achieve with meditation, I think I achieve with my music.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the peace of mind, whatever. I've been connected with Osho, Rajneesh
Mm-hmm.
for quite some time, but again, my focus is towards the music more than different because he has taught some 101 types of different music, meditations and all that. Instead of trying to do all these 101 type of musicians, I prefer to pick up my flute and play that. I mean, I'll tell you one thing, that you must have heard this
Mm-hmm.
meditation, very very popular meditation called Vipassana or Vipassana. So what we do is, like, what we are supposed to do is like focus on the breathing at the tip of our nose, and try to forget, get rid of thoughts in your mind. And that's what we do in flute. When you are playing flute, we have to focus on the music so that we will know that we are whether we are in tune or not. So that kind of, it's that way. I think it's very close to meditation anyway.
You mentioned Osho.
Yeah, of course.
There's still an ashram there in Pune. Did you meet him?
Unfortunately, no. I went to Osho commune on his Osho's birthday when my Guruji was playing there. But unfortunately, it was his last birthday, so he was not very well physically. Was not
Mm-hmm.
very. He died like within a couple of
Mm-hmm.
1.5 months. He died. So unfortunately, I never saw Osho. But since then, I have been there. So it was like my one of my one guru took me to other guru, spiritual guru kind of. But I have played in Osho a lot.
No, I was wondering. I'm going to be speaking very soon with an
Oh, okay.
Australian
Oh,
musician, and
nice.
she was a follower of his and lived at the commune in the States. So we were, yeah, when I spoke, yeah. And
Yeah, yeah,
she
of
said
course, of
mentioned
course.
he really loved music, and she
Yeah.
mentioned your guru that he had come there to the States to play there. So there was that connection. So to end this conversation, I just wanted to ask you a little bit about your teaching, and then I was hoping you could play one last piece of music for us. But in terms of your teaching, just the kinds of things you find are most important to teach your students that work with you.
So let me explain a bit about the education method in India, traditional education method in India, which is still followed in the music for sure,
Mm-hmm.
and some other art forms like spirituality and all this meditation journey. It is called as Guru Shishya Parampara. That means Guru, Shishya is the student, teacher, master, and the student tradition. So, in the European or probably British, I'm not sure. I'm not a student of history anyway. But in the European method of teaching, standard teaching, like which is followed in all schools in India now, or probably all over the world, that we gather all the kids of the same age, put them in one class. All guys who are born in whatever one year, like 1917, they will be
Mm-hmm.
in same class. A few months here and there. And then we teach them, all of them, whatever 20, 30, 50 students, 10, whatever the number of students you have gathered, the same thing, irrespective of whether the child has that aptitude Whether the child has inclination to learn that, we don't care. We just teach him that, and the life goes on. It has created some very good results. This method. I mean, all of us, all scientists have gone through the same channel of studying. So that has its own merits and its own advantages. But also it has some disadvantages, I'm sure. Uh, what happens in Guru Shishya Parampara, it is more one-to-one teaching. So every student, like some time ago, I gave an example that three very good students of a teacher will, one will find a rhythm is like part more exciting, one will find the deep meditative side of the music exciting, somebody will third will find balance thing more exciting. He will say, okay, I want to walk on this way. So the guru will teach the student whatever he requires the most. The guru will understand the journey of a student, which direction this student can go, which direction he will progress better. Whether he wants to do it or not is not the best in the question, because this, especially with the young kids, what they want to do, what they want keeps changing from 6 months. Time to time, somebody wants to become the railway engine driver. 6 months down the later, he might become want to become a tennis player. Another 1 year, and that child might want to become an astronaut, and all you know how it is. So, so the guru will understand probably. Okay, he has better aptitude in this. This guy has better aptitude, better inclination towards this. So I'll tell you, if with my students, I have several students. I don't have my academy as such because I don't have that kind of time. Because according to me, if I say yes to any student, it is a long-term responsibility for me. And so I don't have right now. I think I have only 5 students or 6 students, and I generally take some basic like level of students. I mean, I don't take so basic that he doesn't know how to hold flute and all that. I don't that. And I just actually did a video course for a website called as livedemy.com. Livdemy. It's like Udemy, but only for Indian music, Indian Bollywood in classical. So I just shot and recorded 2 courses of very basic of flute, like how to fold the flute, how to blow the flute, what is flute, and all that kind of things. That should get uploaded in some time now. And this month now. So I take little advanced students, not very basic, intermediate student, I would say. And there also, I know whatever the 5 6 students are there. So I will, I have like one since this year, 2000, last year, 2022, I started a group practice session every Sunday morning. But till then, I would invite everybody individually. Like maximum number of students I would have at one time where it was two, but that also was not really that was also very rare. So now, whoever students are studying with me, I know their weaknesses, I know their strengths, I know their inclination, and I also know the kind of support they are getting from their parents, or they are not getting any supports. Are they on their own, or like a couple of guys are very very well supported with their families. The families are very much interested there that they are playing flute and all that. Couple of students are on their own. They're slightly older, maybe like 20 or something, 22 or something. So they are on their own. So they pursue music on their own, like I did. I mean, I didn't have too much. Well, there's no support from my parents and family anyway. My family all comes from business side, so they they were not in business. So that way I teach them. But the thing is that I don't I don't take like 40 students, 100 students, that kind of thing. I don't think I don't have had 40 students in my entire life. But my couple of students, like 3 students of mine, have their own classes. They have their own academies, and so if it's some very basic student comes, I send to one of those.
Okay. Well, would you be willing to play a little bit more music before the end?
Oh yeah, sure. What should I play? I'll play some classical. And I have not played classical that much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, Milind. I really love your playing, and I've been enjoying your albums. So, of course, your website will be linked in the description so people can.
That was nice talking to you. Very nice talking to you. Talking to a musician
Well,
was
thanks.
always.
Thanks for being part of this.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Thanks for following the series on your favorite podcast player and sharing your favorite episodes with your friends, all of which help find new listeners. I have lots more episodes coming in this season 3 with a fascinating diversity of musicians and their stories and music. Have a great week.